Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll chant Bhaja Govindam verses 26 to 31.
Kamam krodham lobham moham tyaktvatmanam pashyati soham atmajnana vihina mudha te pachyante narakani gudhaha. Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Deyam Shripati Rupamajasram Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam Sukhata Kriyate Rama Bhogaha Paschadanta Sharire Rogaha Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi namunchati papacharanam Arthamanartham bhavaya nityam nasti tata sukalesha satyam Putradapi dhanabhajam bhitihi sarvatraisha vihitaritihi Pranayamam pratyaharam nitya nitya viveka vicharam Japya sameta samadhi vidanam kurvavadanam mahadavadanam Guru charanambuja nirbarasaktaha samsaradhachirat bhavamuktaha SendriyamanasaniyamadevamDrakshasi nijahridayastam devam.
The last four shlokas of this chapter, starting from 28 of this text, starting from verse 28, is attributed to the Guru, Adi Shankaracharya. So the whole of Bhaja Govindam is cautioning humanity about losing direction and getting involved in the material world as an end-all and be-all of life. No scripture is against us contacting the material world. The scriptures are only cautioning us that don't get completely lost in the material world. The sooner you realize the frivolous nature of the material pursuit as an end-all and be-all of life, it is better for you. So in the Veda Purva Bhaga, in the beginning portion of the Vedas, they prescribe a lot of rituals, Karma Kanda portion, through which you can fulfill many of your desires. To see the frivolous nature of the desires, that's about it. Not get completely lost in it. The problem is humanity gets lost in it. So Adi Shankara wants to caution us that don't get lost in acquisition and enjoyment. You may go through acquisition and enjoyment, but rise above them. Understand that the goal of life cannot be merely acquiring and enjoying. Don't stagnate there. You move beyond acquisition and enjoyment. Understand that the goal is to realize the self within. Shift your attention from the material world to the self within. This is the whole idea. So in the entire Bhaja Govindam, that's the theme. So in 28, he talked about enjoyment. Adi Shankara cautions humanity against enjoyment. One happily takes to carnal pleasure. Alas, later on the body becomes diseased. Although death is the end in the world, even then one does not leave his sinful ways. So he's talking about our life completely getting consumed in indulgences. So he is cautioning us with reference to enjoyment. He says, though you know that ultimately one has to die, within that short duration of time that I am living in this world, let me enjoy. That's the kind of this thing that all of us have. So we start indulging. And he says, while indulging, your mind doesn't really enjoy. And not only that, indulgence make you lose the capacity to enjoy over a period of time. And then also disease you will start contacting, and finally you will end with death. So therefore, he says, in a way you can only enjoy when you take your mind to something higher. In a purpose, if you keep it, then to the extent your mind has practiced control, it is able to enjoy the world whenever it contacts. With the craving, I explained this in the class which we did, full class was on this sloka. So basically what happens with the craving when you contact, your mind is not in the contact. It is in the enjoyment. So you really don't register the contact. If you are able to keep the mind controlled while contacting, then you can really enjoy. So indulgent mind doesn't really help you to enjoy. Also a person who indulges in the sense world start losing the capacity to enjoy.
This is a theory even in economics we had law of diminishing returns.
Yeah, law of diminishing returns. Yeah. So therefore he says you have to be clear that instead of indulging, think of the higher, work for that, then with the mind thus controlled, when you contact, you will be able to enjoy, and you will retain the capacity to enjoy for long time also. Otherwise, what you will get is contrary result. Rather than enjoyment, you will be agitated and your craving will increase. You lose the capacity to enjoy. The object is in front of you and you cannot enjoy. That is hell. Therefore, he says, even though you know death is the end in the world, you still do not leave this. So be careful. The pull of the senses is very, very powerful. Therefore, he says, prepare yourself, try to shift your attention towards the divinity. Now, in the next shloka, he talks with reference to acquisition of wealth.
Arthamanartham bhavaya nityam nasti tata sukalesha satyam putradapi dhana bhajam bhitihi sarvatraisha vihitariti.
Artham, anartham, he says. This word anartham, Swamiji has translated it as calamitous. So when he says artham, anartham, artham means wealth. And artham, anartham means wealth is calamitous, dangerous. Just like how electricity is calamitous, dangerous, if you do not know how to contact it. If you know how to contact it, it is blessing. It is a blessing. When you do not know how to contact it, it is dangerous. It is calamitous. Similarly, he says, wealth is calamitous because majority of us do not know how to contact it. Also, artham means that which is desirable, that which is sought after. We say purushartha. You understand? What do you seek as human beings? You seek wealth, then you seek solace. All this we seek. So, in the Vedanta, the Purusharthas that they talk about is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So, technically speaking, you are supposed to learn Dharma, then contact Artha and enjoy Kama, so that you rise above Artha Kama and then understand that really speaking, what is worthy of seeking is moksha only. So what he wants to say here is, artha means wealth, is actually not to be sought after as an end in itself. Because when you are seeking artha, what are you really seeking artha for? What are you really seeking wealth for? You are seeking wealth for happiness. You are seeking wealth for freedom. These things wealth cannot provide you. So, when you desire something, why are you desiring that? It is not just the fulfillment for a moment. You are seeking that with the hope that you will be in enjoyment or happiness forever. What you are seeking is uninterrupted, unintercepted joy. Not intercepted joy. You understand? So therefore he wants to say artham anartham. Anartha means it is not worthy of being sought after as an end in itself. You understand? So he says, wealth is calamitous. It is of no use. What you are seeking it for, you will not get it through it. Because wealth is gross. What you want, happiness, freedom, etc., are subtle. Gross cannot control subtle. Gross cannot help you acquire the subtle. Gross can only help you acquire gross aspects of life. This you reflect all the time, he says. Artham anartham. Wealth is calamitous. Reflect all the time. Truly, there is not the least happiness from it. The wealthy, and the next he goes to say that the wealthy person fear even the sun. This is how it is ordained everywhere. That's how it is in the world. This is what the shloka is saying. You know, when you look at this shloka, if you don't understand it correctly, it looks very pessimistic. What is this? So pessimistic he is. But actually he is speaking the truth very bluntly. He is first of all saying, reflect about it, man. You don't have to accept because I am saying. You think about it. If you really want to destroy a person, just give tremendous wealth to that person. Because every one of us have a lot of desires. Right? And hardly anybody has any control over desires. And if at all people are not indulging, though they have desires, because they don't have enough money to contact the object of their desires. The moment you have too much money, and what will happen when you don't have self-control? You will go and indulge in the desires. When you indulge in desire, what happens? You get only instant pleasures. You crave for more. Right? You never get satisfied. We discussed all this. You indulge, you don't enjoy, you lose the capacity to enjoy. A disease also takes over you, and then you get completely frustrated. Right? So therefore, he says, if you really want to destroy somebody, give them wealth without the real wealth. What is therefore the real wealth that Adi Shankara wants to say? Knowledge of the self. So, he is not saying don't contact wealth. All he is saying is you should contact wealth after having gained the knowledge of the self. That's why we keep on saying you should know how to live, then go about living. But what is happening is, in the present context, we just gain mere intelligence and not develop the intellect. As a result, we go about earning wealth, transacting with our intelligence. You understand? We use our intelligence and draw wealth from the world to fulfill our desires, and then come with lot more agitations, depression, etc. See, what happens is, when you bring up your children also, supposing you pamper your children, they lose the enjoyment value. For example, somebody told me on the 21st birthday of the boy in a wealthy family, he wanted to take his friends for birthday party somewhere else. So the parents said, we have an house in Alps, why don't you take them there? He said, boring. It's boring to that fellow, but for others, you understand, it's something else. Because of too much of indulgence, the mind got neutralized. You understand? It's boring. So that's what happens to a lot of people who completely indulge. They don't know what to look forward for and they commit suicide. Because it's boring. No? I've seen everything. Now what else? I want variety. New. There's nothing. So you have to do all kinds of things. So therefore he says, wealth is dangerous if you do not know how to contact it. You understand? So therefore he says, wealth is calamity. Same thing with electricity, isn't it? When you bring the electrician home to repair something, sometimes you tell the fellow, "Arey yaar, you switch off the mains and work." He says, "Sir, don't worry." He knows how to work. So he says, no, don't worry, I will handle it. And he handles the electricity very well. You don't know. You may get electrocuted. So therefore he says, wealth is calamitous. Reflect all the time. Does it give you what you're seeking? It doesn't. But does it mean that it's completely useless? No. It has a transactional purpose in this world. You understand? In this world, it is helpful to get gross things. You are hungry, you need food. To buy that food, wealth will help you. To make that food, wealth will help you. To go from one place to another, you need vehicle, wealth will help you. So, at the gross level, for transactional purpose, wealth is useful. Beyond that, it has no value. So, all he's trying to say is you have placed an exaggerated value. That you remove. Understand that wealth, all this is only temporary value. Really speaking, I need to gain that happiness from within me. That is only possible when I realize the true nature of myself. That is when I really attain freedom, moksha. Therefore, your goal should be not wealth, your goal should be knowledge of the self. Your goal should be knowledge of the self. And wealth should be helping you to live in this world till you attain the knowledge of the self. That's all. You understand? Today, wealth has become the end-all and be-all of life. Enjoyment has become end-all and be-all of life. That should not be the case. That's all he's saying. So you analyze and see yourself. Reflect, he says. Can you buy love from money? You cannot. Can you buy true happiness from money? You cannot. You cannot buy emotions. You cannot buy knowledge. You can buy information maybe. You cannot buy knowledge. You cannot buy wisdom. Not possible. Somewhere I read the story that Alexander the Great, when he was going out to conquer the world, he asked his teacher, "What can I get for you?" He said, "Get me a teacher from India when you come back." So I believe Alexander the Great tried. When he was going back, he wanted to take a guru with him. The guru refused. He said, no, I am very happy here. Wherever I am, I'm not coming. Alexander the Great, wanting to take the teacher, promising sophisticated living, the guru said, no, I am happy where I am. You please carry on. You understand? So, his teacher actually wanted to teach him that the real subtle things you cannot get by conquering the outside stuff. You understand? That's exactly what he's saying. You must reflect all the time and make your intellect strong so that it doesn't get lost in mere acquisition. Now, there's a quotation which says, where wealth accumulates, men decay. Men means women also. You understand? Human beings.
Human race.
Human race. So, where wealth accumulates, meaning the tendency to hoard. The tendency to hoard is there. That is what he is cautioning. Where wealth accumulates, men decay, means the tendency to hoard. On the contrary, the vision that Gita provides is that you eat the remnants of sacrifice. The sense, what should be with you, it must be something that comes to you after having sacrificed. With that you live your life. So you have a goal in life, something beyond your selfish, self-centered interest, contribute, and from that whatever comes, you live your life. Whereas when he says, where wealth accumulates, men decay, their whole idea is to just work for wealth and accumulate wealth. Hoard wealth. That hoarding is what is being criticized. And with what hope that fellow is doing that? A fellow is doing that with an idea that it will provide him or her with that happiness only. But it is like a mirage. The more they try, they never succeed. And then he says, the whole process of gaining wealth is painful. Isn't it? You have to really work hard. Then also there is no guarantee that you will get it. And secondly, after having got it, now there is fear that somebody may take it away from you. And he says, more than anybody else outside, your own children. There are, right now, in this world today, children fight with parents. What is this? What is the use of you giving me your wealth after you?
Yeah.
By the time I will be very late, I will be very old. I want it now. And there are cases where the parents have given everything and the parents have been left out. You understand? Even in middle class families and high class families, everywhere. You see this. And this was already spoken about in King Lear by Shakespeare. King Lear had 3 daughters, Goneril, Regan and Cordelia. Goneril and Regan were married, but they were not at all interested in the father, but they were interested in his kingdom. He was king of England in the story. And on his 80th birthday, he wanted to divide his kingdom into 3 and give it to his daughters. And he just wanted to keep some perks for himself till he lives. That was his idea. So he called all of them. The first 2 daughters were praising him to skies on his birthday. When he asked, what have you got to say on my birthday? Goneril was praising King Lear, though she was not at all interested in that fellow. And he fell for the speech she gave, the flattery, And then he said, okay, this is your 1/3 of the kingdom. Take it. And Regan, same story. Cordelia, he says, she's not married yet. Cordelia, my child, what have you got to say on my birthday? On my 80th birthday. He's very eager to listen to her. And she's fed up seeing all these 2 girls who are not really interested, but talking like this and father falling for it. She's a very straightforward person. So she says nothing. And he gets fed up. He says, what? Nothing? Nothing comes out of nothing, he says. Meaning you will not get anything. She says, I have a divided loyalty to you and my husband to be. When I get married, I have a divided loyalty. He says, what? Even before your marriage, you're talking about divided loyalty? You are banished. He banishes her and divides the kingdom into 2 equal parts and gives them to the first 2 daughters. And says, I want these, small perks, which they initially agree. Slowly they withdraw everything. and he literally roams around in his own kingdom as a mad fellow. As a mad fellow. Then actually Cordelia, who's married in France, she comes to help him, but both of them die. It's a tragic end story. So what is Shakespeare telling that time? You understand? There are many things he's telling about the dangerous aspect of flattery, about giving into the impulses of the mind, etc., etc. Along with that, he's also telling about old age. You understand? In old age, which is what Adi Shankaracharya also saying, your son, he says, fear even their son, the son. Because they are interested in the property. You understand? Therefore, this is a big headache. Accumulating wealth, painful. Because there is no guarantee. After accumulating wealth, there is no guarantee that it will stay with you. You understand? There is no guarantee that it will stay with you. Therefore, you are constantly worried about the impending loss of it. So, with people around wanting to take away your wealth, you are constantly agitated that you might lose it, you might lose it. So, when you are having it, you are not happy. When it is actually lost, you are finished. When you actually lose it, you are completely gone. So, that's what he says. When you analyze, there is not an ounce of happiness in wealth. If your thoughts are resting in wealth, therefore your thoughts should be resting on a higher purpose, higher goal. After having worked for a higher goal, wealth is there which you just use for transactional purpose. It should not be preoccupying your head. If it's preoccupying your head, you're finished. That's all he says. This is how it is ordained everywhere, he says. Earning is painful. Retaining is painful. Parting is even more painful. But as long as you're attached, you won't enjoy. You will enjoy only when you part with it. Only when you rise above it. Only when you let go of it. Till then you don't enjoy. The beauty of life is, you should let go of it to enjoy it. But we do not know how to let go of it. You can only let go of it when you have grabbed something higher. You understand? Once you have established yourself in the higher, then you can let go of the lower. Till then it's not possible. So that's why he says, it is dangerous. It destroys you if you do not know how to handle it. Please think about it. Reflect all the time. When you relate with another person, if you maintain regulation, in regulation and contact, you will enjoy that contact, isn't it? But if you are indulging all the time, you don't enjoy. This is exactly what is happening with us with reference to acquisition also. Because it's preoccupied the mind, we don't really enjoy our wealth. Swamiji says, you are only so busy going on hoarding, so you never find time to enjoy. So hence, he says, artham anartham. If it's not going to give you happiness, what is the use of it? Now, there is another thing that we need to understand when we talk about all this. That's why I said it looks very pessimistic. Oh, what is this? Money cannot give you happiness. ठीक है, money doesn't give you happiness, but still I like it. Let it come to me. What you must understand is, money gives you option. What option? Wealth gives you option. What option? To be sad in Delhi, or to take a flight and go to Alps and be sad there. To be happy in Delhi, or take a flight and go to Alps and be happy. It gives you an option. You understand? Please understand what he's trying to say when he says reflect all the time. Money does give you an option. Are you with me? For what? Not for happiness or sorrow. To be happy here or somewhere else. That option it gives. Okay. So therefore, if you understand it correctly, you don't have to turn yourself against money, against wealth. So therefore, money is not going to alter your mental condition of sorrow or happiness. So what is more important is your mental condition of sorrow or happiness. I should move from sorrow to happiness. And I should learn how to stay in it forever. That money cannot bring. That wealth cannot bring. That is what we call as inner wealth. That is the knowledge of the self. That is the knowledge of the subtler aspects of life. You understand? When we begin to understand that, then you won't be attached to your wealth. Then acquisition and enjoyment cannot be the end all and be all of your life. That's all he says. Artham anartham bhavaya nityam. Please think about it daily. Reflect. Study the Shastras. Understand the higher aspects of life. And understand where wealth stands. Truly there is not the least happiness from it. The wealthy even fear the sun. This is how it is ordained everywhere. See, ordained everywhere means it's not that God has ordained everything like that. What it means is the law is like that. Ordained means law. Ordainer is the one who controls the law. So what is the law? What is the law? If you are attached, you lose. If you are detached, you gain. That's the law. So when he says it is ordained everywhere, means the law is that if you are attached to the wealth, you lose life. You lose life means even though you live, you don't really enjoy. But if you leave the attachment to wealth and seek the self, then you enjoy world also and you will ultimately realize the self also. That is what he is saying when he says it is ordained everywhere. Therefore, in these two slokas, 28 and 29, he cautions us from keeping the goal of acquisition and enjoyment as our ultimate purpose in life. Then he is saying your purpose should be to realize the self. For that, what you have to do? You have to gain the knowledge with certain sadhanas. He already gave Bahiranga sadhana, external disciplines. Now he goes into internal disciplines in the next shloka. Let's see next shloka.
Pranayamam pratyaharam nitya viveka vicharam japya sameta samadhi vidanam kurvavadanam mahadavadanam.
In this shloka he is mentioning certain antaranga sadhanas, the inner spiritual disciplines. Pranayamam, first he says regulation of pranas, life's activities. Pranayama generally is understood as just breath control. Pranayamam here does not just mean breath regulation, it means regulation of all life's activities. And pratyaharam, withdrawal of the mind from the sense activities. And then Nitya Anitya Viveka Vicharam. Focus on the distinction between eternal and ephemeral. And then he talks about japa, practice of chanting and silencing the mind. He's talking about japa and meditation. These perform with care, with great care. Kuru avadhanam mahat avadhanam. Perform them with care, with great care. So, Adi Shankara is saying, what you need to do is, rather than leading a life of indulgence, you lead a life of regulation. Keep a higher goal. Ultimate purpose of life is to realize the self. Keep that as the goal. If you can't keep that as the goal, keep something beyond your selfish, self-centered interest. Then, when it comes to your life, regulate your life's activities. Maintain certain discipline. So thus, constantly when you park your mind on the higher through regulation in the world, then your mind gets established in the higher. As a result, it develops tremendous detachment from the senses. That is called pratyaharam. Pratyaharam comes because of pranayamam. You understand? You constantly practice pranayama. Pranayama, I mentioned to you, it's not just breath control. It's regulation in all life's activities. See, the way to really enjoy in life is through regulation. Through regulation. You know, constantly contact. Like you said, the neutralization comes. You understand? The law of diminishing value. You lose it. You don't enjoy it anymore. Without it, you will suffer. With it, you are not really happy. That is the state called neutralization, mentally. But when you regulate, you really enjoy. You look forward for it. You know? So therefore, he says, regulate every aspect in your life. In the academy, after every meal, generally students brush their teeth. Meaning between meals they don't eat. Understand? They don't eat in between meals. The idea is that you brush or not. Separate thing. Idea is the next meal you really look forward for. But in between, if you add few things, then you're really not hungry. You're simply eating because it's that time. And you really don't enjoy. You understand? So regulation adds spice to your life. Even in relationships, one of the most important tips that is given is to maintain regulation. There's too much of lovey-dovey stuff. You don't really enjoy. Children also want to, little bit give me space. It's like, wherever I go, you are there. You understand? So they want to have space from you. But when you regulate, they look forward for you. So, regulation of life's activities. This, when it is practiced with Nitya Anitya Viveka Vicharam. What is that? Constantly reflecting over what is Nitya, what is Anitya, what is eternal, what is ephemeral. And the more and more you do this reflection as to what is eternal, what is ephemeral, you start identifying with eternal and start detaching from ephemeral. You assert eternal, you negate ephemeral. Then what happens? Your mind starts losing the value for the lower. So that is why we constantly say, do not forcefully try to rise above anything. When you try to forcefully rise above something, it starts occupying your mind even more. Rather, you expose the mind to something higher. And then the lower that you are trying to rise above, maintain a regulated contact. Because your mind then otherwise will say, Arey yaar, I have not contacted for long. Then also it will crave for it. See, the idea is what? The mind should be shifted to the divinity. Right? So, what you need to do is, if you too much pull the mind away from the world, then again it will with vengeance go back. That's what people do, no? I told you, in South India, I don't know about North, but in North also during that 9 days of Navratri, they don't eat this, they don't eat that. There is so much regulation. Even people who eat non-veg, they stay vegetarians and they stay certain kind of food, But generally in many places, when people do this kind of practice, one day before they indulge. One day before the start of that fasting, they indulge. And the next day, immediately after the fast is over, they indulge. Which means what? The mind gets back to that with vengeance. It has not really developed control over, supremacy over that. It's still having value for it. So that is why we say regulation is important. So that it knows, okay, I will be contacting it next weekend. This weekend I have contacted, next weekend I will contact. So this week it will help you to concentrate in your work. So you've given regulation. You understand? And along with that regulation, you are also simultaneously doing what? Nitya Anitya Viveka Vicharam.
That helps in regulation.
So slowly what happens? The mind starts establishing itself in the eternal. And once it starts getting established in eternal, it starts developing lot of what? Capacity to stay away from it. That is pratyahara. So the regulation time can increase more. You understand? Regulation time can increase more. Up to a time where it really doesn't matter whether you're contacting or not contacting. If you're contacting, it is for transactional purpose. If you're not contacting, because transactional purpose nahi hai, it's not required. तो वो mind से बाहर चले गया. You understand? So therefore he says, you practice this. Pranayama, Nitya Nitya Viveka Vichara, develop Pratyahara. This Pratyahara will help you to do more Pranayama. Pranayama along with Nitya Nitya Viveka Vicharam will bring more Pratyahara. That's how you have to develop. Then your mind is now not craving for the material stuff, frivolous stuff. It wants to go more into divinity. So that's the time you can give chanting to the mind to do japa. It's able to concentrate. You understand? If the mind is not developed like this, how can it concentrate? And forget meditation, definitely it cannot do. Therefore, after having done all these sadhanas, you have to take the mind to chanting, japa. And then to meditation. Through meditation, what do? You completely silence the mind. Samadhi. Silence the mind means the thoughts dissolve. And you just remain there in absolute silence. And that's what he means by saying silencing the mind. Practice of chanting and silencing the mind. And then he says, these you perform with care, with great care. Why with care and great care? What happens is, when you do sadhana, sometimes you force yourself. When you force yourself with the idea that I will get there fast with result orientation, you actually do a lot of harm for yourself. Because the mind then starts craving for it even more. You understand? So that result orientation should not be there. It's much more dangerous. You have to slowly slide into it. Not say, I'm so result oriented that I will get it very fast. There is nothing there's no hurry. You understand? This is the cause, that is the effect. You follow these disciplines, you will get that result. But if you force and say, no, I will practice regulation, more regulation, then the mind becomes so frustrated, you'll go and indulge in it fully. You lose all the things that you gain through tapas. You have developed some ability. You understand? You lose it if you have not followed properly using the buddhi. That's why we say when you do sadhana, of course the sadhana is to control the mind, to develop the mind. But it has to be done with the intellect's capacity, intellect's guidance. If it's not done with the intellect's guidance, which he means by saying care, great care, if it's not done with intellect supervision, then it will snap. A lot of people with no understanding of what he's saying, they directly get on to meditation. And initially it helps them because they were too much into the world. So when they get into meditation, they are just simply closing their eyes and trying to be silent. Temporarily it seems to be good for them. But later on it frustrates them too much that they get back with so much of vengeance. They have not risen above it, or they get a lot of anger, depression, etc. You understand? Anxiety, depression, all this comes. Though the person is doing meditation. Why? Because they have not followed this preparation properly. So that's what he's talking about here. You must understand that this is a step-by-step thing. In life you must follow regulation and then contact the knowledge. Then you will develop the ability to be without the world, which will help you to do more regulation. Then you will actually be seeking the divinity more, so you can do more of japa and meditation, etc. Otherwise, when you force your mind, see what is meditation? Meditation is the art of keeping the mind on a single mantra, supervised by the intellect. Isn't it? That is meditation. Now, if you don't have the intellect keeping the mind on the single mantra, mind by itself going, temporarily it will feel fine. Slowly, you will develop a lot of frustration because you're forcing the mind. That's why he says, you must understand your capacity. What is your capacity? And if you continuously do this, your capacity increases. If you continuously do this, your capacity increases, no? So even in meditation, when you sit in meditation, you should do it according to your capacity. When you feel you're slowly, getting distracted, little bit more you can try and do. After that you have to stop and get back to sadhana again. Then you'll get more capacity to be in meditation for longer time. This is the idea. So therefore, he says these are all important sadhanas. A lot of people don't give importance to this. Directly knowledge. It's like children, when my son used to go for these cricket practices, he wanted to take up cricket as his career once. But then he left it. So when he goes for these cricket training sessions, he doesn't want to do any warm-up exercises, nothing. And if the session is there on, the coach says, okay, you fellows are supposed to bowl, they are supposed to bat, you continue bowling, they don't really enjoy. The coach says, today we'll have match amongst ourselves. Everybody is excited. You understand? Once in a while the coach says, okay, today there is match amongst ourselves. They enjoy. They don't want to really slog. Really speaking, the power is in the slogging. The power is in the slogging. They don't understand, no children. What is this warming up and all that? Let's get on to play. Straight away. And then they get very excited when they win. You understand? So, That's what he's trying to say. There is this tendency of the mind to be result oriented. Therefore, you have to be very careful. Because in spirituality, we are dealing with mind. We're trying to get the mind established in the higher. You cannot force it into the higher. The mind has to understand the trivial nature of the world and the eternal nature of the self. Then it will court it. So, little bit taste of the higher, then withdraw. So, don't completely run away from the world. It's dangerous. See, why did they keep it like this? Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Because the path is one way. Move from Brahmacharya to Grahastha to Vanaprastha to Sannyas. After Sannyas, you can't come back to Grahastha. You understand? So, the idea is, nothing wrong, you rise above. Then once you are in Sannyas, you moved away. Like when Sri Krishna left Vrindavan, he never came back. You understand? So exactly like that, your mind should be completely withdrawn. Therefore, do it slowly, according to your capacity. Don't compare. Even in yoga, when you go for yoga class, yoga teacher will say, please hold on in this position as long as you can. Don't stretch it beyond your limits. Because in the class, there are other fellows who are little senior to you. They may be able to hold it for much longer. If you do that, then in your life you cannot do yoga thereafter. Isn't it? So, but they were able to develop to that capacity because they were doing it for a long period of time, according to their capacity, slowly. So you can also get there, but don't be in a hurry. So that's why he says, Kuru avadanam, mahad avadanam. With care. These perform with care, with great care. Also, there are people who got fed up and then declared that they are self-realized. You understand? They are fed up and they say, yeah, I understood, I've got the knowledge, so I'm realized. And then with that idea, they go about living in the world and they destroy themselves. This is what happened to Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, after doing so much of tapas, he got some power. So with that, what did he do? He destroyed himself. Because he said, I am Brahman. I am God. I am God, he attributed it to the ego. When Vedanta says, I am God, the I is attributed to the self, not to the ego. But he attributed it to the ego. I am God. So everybody must surrender to me, submit to me. I am everything. And he went about and he destroyed himself. So you have to be very, very careful. If you try to take your mind away from indulgence without proper regulation and without proper exposure to the knowledge, reflection, strengthening the intellect, you will only go into it even more. What you would have done is, you would have declared to the world of a certain lifestyle externally, but mentally you will be indulging in the other lifestyle. That's why the Bhagavad Gita also he cautions. He says, you will become a hypocrite. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasasmaran indriyarthan vimudatma mityacharasa uchyate. Verse number 6 of chapter 3 of the Gita. Karma Yoga, he cautions. He says, Karmendriyani samyamya. Samyamya means controlling. Controlling what? Karmendriya. Organs of action. Not working in the world. Not contacting the world. Not acting. Karmendriyani samyamya. Ya aste manasasmaran indriyartam. One who sits mentally thinking about the sense objects. Such a fellow he calls as Vimood Atma. Mood Atma means full. Vimood Atma means PhD in foolishness. Mityacharaha. Such a person is an hypocrite. He is foolish. He is fooling himself. Whom is he fooling? Therefore, he is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, same thought is given here in Bhaja Govindam by Adi Shankaracharya. You will become a hypocrite. Which means what? You will be, instead of being in supreme ananda, you will be in supreme frustration. So therefore he says pranayamam, pratyaharam, nitya anitya viveka vicharam. Even in yoga, Patanjali yoga, he gives 8 steps. What are the 8 steps? Yama, niyama. Disciplines. Yama means what you can do. Yama means what you have to control. Niyama means what you can do, what you can contact. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. After your asana practices, it comes to pranayama. Pranayamam pratyahara. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi. 8 steps. Isn't it? So, discipline, pranayama, breath control, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. See, we have studied the Panchakoshas, no? In the VT also we have studied Vedanta treatise. We studied in Tattvabodha also. What are the Panchakoshas?
We begin with physical.
Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. So the Pranamaya Kosha is in between Annamaya Kosha and Manomaya Kosha. So the regulation with reference to pranas is conducive for bringing about control over mind. When the mind is controlled, pranas are automatically controlled. Prana control does not bring about mind control, but is conducive for bringing mind control. Therefore, breath control is important. You understand? And you get prana shakti from the food you eat, from the air you breathe, from every aspect of your life. If you are too much of hurrying and worrying and running about in the world, that also dissipates your prana shakti. So therefore, the word pranayama is taken in a larger sense as what? Regulation in all life's activities. Haven't you seen fellows who are running after the objects of life simply propelled by desire? What happens to them? Their whole lifestyle goes for a toss. Because running, what happens? You go through stress. When you go through stress, what happens? You burn out. Your breathing also goes out of control. You have no control over the mind. Your life is in a misery. Therefore, he says, please follow regulation in every aspect of your life, including practice of pranayama. And I already explained to you, when you do pranayama, what happens? Especially that anulo vilom when you do, is a long exhalation. Isn't it? They say, if you're inhaling 4 counts, exhale 8 counts. The more you do pranayama, the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system that is functioning in you, parasympathetic nervous system will kick in. It will calm you, quieten you. When you are stressed, sympathetic nervous system takes over. When you do pranayama, parasympathetic nervous system takes over, you become calm. Are you with me? And with that calmness, you will be able to direct your mind towards the higher. Without that, you cannot. Therefore, he says pranayama. And japa mein hota hai wo. When you do japa, it's a long exhalation. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Long exhalation. And also the thought association is of the divinity. You can also say buffalo or monkey, but the thought association is something else. But when you chant these mantras, the thought association is of the divinity. You understand? And automatically pranayama happens when you do japa. And the mind calms down. It calms down. And that mind that calmed down can be taken to meditation. And in meditation, what happens? Intellect gives a mantra to the mind. There are many mantras. We usually take the mantra Om. Om represents the Atma, the consciousness. Represents the waking, dream and deep sleep states. Right? The entire range of sound is captured in these three sounds. When you say it comes from where the sound actually emanates. And you do it with your mouth open. Then when you do the mouth is not fully closed, but almost closed. And when you do, lips are completely closed. Right? So, when the mouth is fully open, it represents the waking state because it's a completely blossomed state of consciousness. Then Wu represents dream state because it's not fully blossomed, nor it is completely unmanifest. Therefore, Wu represents dream state. Represents deep sleep because your lips are completely shut there. It's an unmanifest state, the deep sleep state. Therefore, we say represents deep sleep state. Together represents waking, dream, deep sleep state. And in all these three states, what pervades? The consciousness. That consciousness is what is represented by Om. That which pervades the waking, dream and deep sleep states. So you take that mantra Om and give it to the mind for the mind to chant. Initially, it chants loudly. Om, Om, like that. Then slowly it goes to mental whispers. And when this chanting is going on, what is the intellect doing? It is discriminating between the sound and the silence. Sound and the silence. Isn't it? And slowly when the sound goes to mental whispers and then the sound completely dies down, meaning there is no more chanting, what is remaining? Only silence. Now intellect needs two things to discriminate. Sound and silence, sound and silence. Now when the sound is not there, only silence is there, there are no two things to discriminate. So what happens? The intellect dissolves. Then what remains? Only consciousness. That is what he means by samadhi. You understand? So the way to go back to the self is through knowledge, and that is through discipline, and therefore follow disciplines. In fact, karma yoga and bhakti yoga itself, we say, is yogas that help you to prepare your mind. You understand? People generally, when you say karma yoga, you talk about karma kanda portion. A lot of these rituals and all that, that comes in performance of karma. Now people say, I am not interested in doing rituals, this and that. So I tell them, listen, if you haven't done, it's okay, and if you're not interested in doing anymore, that's also fine. But please analyze, what do the rituals do? What does it do if it's done properly?
Purification.
How? If you see, there is an idol to which you are offering certain things. So firstly, you, with that bhav, you go and take shower, then come and sit without having any food. With the resolve that you will contact it afterwards. So there itself there is focus, sacrifice, patience, all these kind of disciplines you slowly develop and inculcate in you. This is what we mean by purification process. Now, if you have not done rituals but you have lived in this world dharmically, you would have also developed these qualities in you. So, end of the day, through these rituals, what are you supposed to develop? These practices only. And one another thing that happens in rituals is, you generally do a ritual for fulfillment of a certain desire. Okay? So, but you first keep the faith in the altar and then do the ritual. So, you forget about whether you will get the result or not, because you have surrendered. And the mind calms. Then you go and do the actions, you get the result. So, there are a lot of these things that happen, which is what we mean by saying purification process. So, when you do unselfish actions, that's why we say in the olden days, karma yoga means karma kanda rituals done with the idea of uniting with the self. In the modern context, what is it? It is selfless, unselfish actions, which does a lot of purification process. Then you do upasana, which is with an idol form, you try to focus. There again you are cleansing the certain other impurities that are there in your mind. Then ultimately you get on to deeper meditation and then realize the self. But before that, there is one another process called knowledge. To the extent you have done karma yoga, upasana, to that extent you are qualified to gain knowledge. And with the knowledge, your mind has lost the interest in the world, only contacts it for transactional purpose. Then that mind is capable of doing meditation. That mind you take to meditation, and through meditation you attain samadhi. This is the idea. So that's all he's saying here. Regulation of pranas, life's activities, withdrawal from sense activity, focus on distinction between eternal and ephemeral. All this you have to do according to your capacity. That's why even our class we keep maximum 1 hour 15 minutes. Some days we do only 1 hour class if it's mostly online. If it's in person, 1 hour 15 minutes. Because you have a capacity at the intellectual level also. And also the time we are doing. You understand? When you do the class and different times you can see your energy levels. So, if you go beyond that level also, it's not good for your mind and intellect. If you do too little also, it's of no use. So, you have to give proper regulation for everything. Even good things. Otherwise, you will get bored. So, therefore, he says, do it with care, with great care. Because the mind will deceive you and start getting indulged in that itself. Indulging in meditation will also take you away from the self. That's why even in meditation you have to be very careful. That's why we say when we talk about meditation, what is meditation? Meditation is the art of keeping your mind on the single mantra, supervised by the intellect. If the intellectual supervision is not there, it is called trance. It's not meditation. The mind by itself going is called trance. If it's not supervised by the intellect. That is detrimental. It has to be supervised by the intellect. That's why he says, do it with care, with great care. Let's conclude now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyairva Buddhyatmana va Prakriti Swabhavat Karomi Yadhyad Sakalam Parasmai Narayana Yeti Samarpayami.